Hi, welcome back to another gadget report. Let's talk gadgets. This week we're talking about a gadget that got in a little bit of trouble almost at the end of one flight. Well, let me explain. I'm talking about Virgin Australia flight VA 1528 from Sydney to Hobart that had to declare a PAM emergency call just a few minutes before landing because they had a fire in the cabin. It was caused by one lithium-ion battery that caught fire. The plane landed safely. But in this video, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about all the discussion around this type of battery, what happens, and why authorities here and around the world are trying to find ways of minimizing the risks associated with these batteries and associated with these devices in an era where everyone carries a laptop, everyone carries a mobile phone, tablets, etc. And of course, all of these devices will carry one of these batteries. So come with me and let's talk gadgets. Last month, flight VA 1528 from Sydney to Hobart, a Virgin Australia flight, had to or declared a PAM emergency after a lithium-ion battery caught fire in a overhead locker. So this has been something that has been discussed for a long time, and again, looks like the discussion is still ongoing, and the industry is really scrambling to find ways of dealing with this situation. According to the SMH, I'll leave the link for the article on Sydney Morning Herald, so you can also read all the information they provided. But according to the article on SMH, the flight was only 10 minutes from landing when the accident occurred, and of course the pilots landed the aircraft safely. So this was the battery triggered the PAM emergency. So what happened was the flight was descending into Hobart, as I said before, 10 minutes before landing, so way into descending, when apparently lithium-ion battery caught fire into one of the overhead lockers. The article even shows an image the Sydney Morning Herald obtained from one of the passengers that shows the cabin crew promptly addressing the problem and trying to put out the fire. The captain obviously declared a PAM emergency. This means that it is a non-life-threatening emergency, as you know, and also means, so when a pilot declares a PAM, it means that flight, in this case flight VA 1528, will have priority for landing and assistance on the ground. Usually the fire brigade is there waiting for the plane to land because they don't know if there's a risk of fire, and if there was already a fire on board, of course they needed to be there, and sometimes there's all sorts of emergency services, but obviously the first responders are always there. And when a pilot declares PAM, that's what it means, that the flight will have priority. Traffic controllers will clear the runway for that flight because that flight has priority. The same obviously with a Mayday, but a Mayday is a life-threatening emergency. It's obviously when everything escalates and, for example, there's systems stop working, like engine failures, things like that, of course, then the pilot will go and declare a mayday. This wasn't obviously a mayday, this was just a pam-pam, because it was something that was non-life threatening. The cabin crew is adequately trained to deal with these sort of situations, so much so that, as it says in the article, there is images of the cabin crew promptly addressing the problem and trying to put out the fire. However, when there is a fire in the cabin, of course, the first priority is to get that aircraft on the ground and get that fire put out and the passengers evacuated from the aircraft. So that's why the pam-pam was needed. So then the whole situation brought about, again, the whole issue and the whole debate about these type of devices, these type of batteries within planes. For a long time, these sorts of batteries have been a source of conversation and serious debate. The article mentions that in the US, for example, the FAA warned passengers not to fully charge their devices due to increased risks of fire. Some believe they should not be in the cabin as they pose safety risks. However, we have a little bit of a dilemma here. So, these batteries, and the problem is that these batteries can go through a process called thermal runaway. What this is energy, when energy from the battery is released in a way that causes an increase in temperature, and that may lead to explosion or fire. So this is the problem. This incident or these devices can get through or can go through this process of this battery process, thermal runaway, and then which lead to an increase in temperature that in time leads to explosion of fire. So now the problem is where it's safer if one of these batteries are gonna caught fire, where within the aircraft it's safer for it to happen, in the hull or in the cabin. This is the discussion about this. In April, for example, CASA in Australia, CASA told travelers to pack power banks and spare batteries in their carry-on luggage to reduce in-flight safety risks. After this incident and following investigation, this policy might need reviewed. The article says that if it happens, and I agree, if it happens in the cabin, it's easier to access. And let's think about it. And we had already a few examples of crashes and accidents, air crashes, air accidents, where a fire starts in the hull, where the access is not that easy, or sometimes it's not the fact of being easy, it's being detected. Because if it's in the hull, there's no one there unless it's needed to be there. The plane is loaded at the airport, all checks are done, the doors are closed, and the whole of the plane, it's not supervised or visited during flight unless there is a need for that. So if one of these batteries, for example, is on the long haul luggage of someone and catches fire, the pilots and the cabin crew would probably only have the knowledge of that once they get an alarm, because of course the plane has all these sensors, and that it will trigger an alarm in the cockpit or if there is smoke. And then we'll alert them, and one of the crew members would go down to see what's going on. If it is in the cabin, on an overhead locker, like it happened with Virgin Flight, it's obvious, it's detected in a very early stages, and the cabin crew can come and address the issue, just like what happened with Virgin Flight. The captain may eventually declare a pam-pam, land the plane, and no more issues, or no bigger issues. In the hull of the plane, in the cargo hull, it may take a while for the fire to be detected. It may not be detected at the very early stages of it, very likely that it won't be, and that will lead to a much bigger problem, because it might be the case that once the fire is actually detected, is already in a bigger proportion that may cause a much bigger problem. And in that case, the pilot will actually may have to declare a mayday, and sometimes it might really need to crashes. I know there has been a few, and if you watch air crash investigations, you probably already seen a few of these episodes where fire in the cabin, fire in the plane, ended up causing the demise of that flight. So I think it is definitely something that needs to be addressed. I see the FAA is trying to minimize the issue, asking people not to charge, but now we have planes that are already equipped with USB ports that you can actually charge your mobile phones, for example, in flight. So how are we going to deal with this? What is going to be the regulations in regards to this? Definitely, it is something that needs to be studied, and all the risks involved must be measured, and the right approach to this type of situation need to be taken. My personal view is that definitely if there is to be a situation like this where one of these devices catches fire, it is preferable that it happens in the cabin where the crew is right there, constantly going back and forth, and the passengers are there, and it can be detected in a very early stages and addressed by the crew that is highly trained to deal with something like this. Then if it's in the luggage hall, that might not be detected on its very early stages, and of course when it's not detected in its very early stages, it's going to propagate, it's going to become a larger fire, and it may entail a much bigger problem. So this is my take on this. Of course, I'm not a technician on this type of devices. I don't know. I see that several countries are trying to address this situation. The United States have thought about not having the devices fully charged. I think it could be a good idea, but then you have chargers within the aircraft, so we really need to see if then passengers would be allowed to charge the devices in flight or not. For example, I remember last year when I went to Portugal, we had that, and of course people were charging their phones, so when they reached their destination they would have the phones charged. But with this current situation, what regulations will change and what will be done in order to minimize this type of situation with these batteries? Eventually, maybe a new type of battery need to be developed to minimize the risk of fire, since it's not only in flight that this happens. We already had a lot of issues with this type of battery, even with those e-scooters and things like that, where full apartments went up in flames because one of those devices went up in flames. So I definitely think that there's two approaches here. First of all, the batteries themselves, perhaps trying to develop a much safer battery, not just for flights, but for in every environment, because as I said, it's not just in flight that this happen with batteries for mobile phones and smaller devices, but there is the case of houses and apartments going up in flames because of these type of batteries in e-scooters, e-bikes, etc. So we still need to have a look at those. They're still dangerous too. So at some point, I think we need to look at the bigger picture, and we need to look at these batteries more broadly and try to find ways of making them safer, generally speaking, and of course in aviation terms. And while we don't have that development, while we don't have those better batteries or safer batteries in the market, of course the aviation industry need to create regulation and need to create avenues so things are in fact safer for their passengers and the crew inside the aircraft. I believe, and as I said, this is my personal opinion, I believe that if these devices are in the cabin crew, if they are within reach of the cabin crew and the passengers, it will be quicker to address the problem should one of these batteries go up in flames. It's more easy to detect, it's more accessible, quickly accessible, and therefore it might minimize a much bigger problem in flight. But of course, there is investigations ongoing. There's an investigation about this incident with the Virgin flight. As I said, there's also those regulations that were put up in place by the FAA in the United States after a few incidents like this happened there as well. And of course, as everything in aviation, and we've seen throughout the years, every single time there is an incident, every single time there is a problem, there is an investigation. And as I said, in most of, and the purpose of the investigation, the purpose of investigating air crashes and all incidents within aviation, it's really not pointing the finger at someone or at something, because usually it's never one factor. I've said this already. It's always a combination of factors that lead to a certain situation. And the purpose of the investigation, it's not really pointing the finger. It's not really saying, oh, you did this wrong, but find those factors that contributed for that particular incident and make changes so it won't happen again. So this is what is happening at the moment. Of course, with more and more mobile phones traveling every day, everyone has one, and chances are they don't have only one device. Only one person may have a mobile phone, may have a tablet, a computer. So there will be more devices, more batteries, and we need to address this problem, and we need to find a good way of still allowing passengers to travel with these devices. I cannot really see the entire aviation sector banning people from taking their mobile phone. It would be unthinkable, because in the current situation, in the current world, there is no way people will travel without their mobile phones. So there needs to be something else put in place to make it safer, I believe, for now, until a new battery may be designed, perhaps, until more safety measures are put in place within the manufacturing of these batteries and installation of these batteries. Until that doesn't happen, I think for the time being, the best option is really to have it within the cabin crew, site, because if they can detect it early in the piece, they can act on it and they can avoid a much bigger problem. This is obviously my personal intake. I'll leave the link below for the Sydney Morning Herald article so you can also read it. And of course, I'm always open to hear from you. So for today, I hope you like this gadget report, and I hope you really like the idea and of measures being put in place for these batteries, for these devices, because let's face it, they're not going to go away anytime soon. And if anything, there's going to be more and more devices being transported with passengers everywhere. So of course, we need to think about ways of making these devices safer inside aircraft, because of course passengers are going to take them regardless. So we really need to do something. Obviously, there's the investigation, and I think from all of this, there will eventually be a conclusion about the best possible practice to minimize the risks of fires inside the cabin. But as I said, and this is only my personal opinion, if it happens, obviously it's not only mine because the article also mentioned that, but I agree, if the fire starts in the cabin where you have the cabin crew constantly going back and forth, you have the passengers that easily can detect smoke, can detect it, it can be detected very, very earlier on and addressed and put out easily, or at least may be addressed easily if there is the instance of doing an emergency call, an emergency landing. If you find the fire, or if it is detected earlier in the piece, there is better chances for that pilot to be able to make that emergency call if needed, and land the plane safely, rather than if it's in the luggage hall, where it might just be detected when some alarm goes off, some smoke is detected in the cabin, and then it might already been a huge problem. The fire may have already spread to other compartments of other luggage compartments, other luggage, and we know in our luggage that's all sorts of things that if there is a fire, it's horrible. We might carry our beauty products, plastic things, everything that if there is a fire, they are all fire hazards. They are all very, very combustible, and they will cause a lot of issues. So I think it's a minor issue if it is in the cabin, where it can be cited and addressed earlier. But let me know what you think. Do you work in aviation? What do you think? What do you think? Are you a cabin crew member? What do you prefer? Do you think that having it in the cabin crew where you guys can see it and address the problem is a better option, or you don't think that at all, you have another idea? Let us know. Let me know on the comments below. What do you think would be the best approach for this type of devices, for this type of batteries? Because obviously I don't think it's feasible to ban them all together, because people fly with their mobiles. It's going to be something very, very difficult. It would be very difficult to implement. So obviously there needs to be some sort of measure put in place that still allows people to fly with them, because they are going to, and still be a safe flight and make it safer for passengers and of course for the crew. So let me know in the comments below. If you have an idea or of a topic that you would like me to talk about in our gadget reports, please leave also in the comment below. of course, needs to be gadget related. And, put a like on the video and subscribe the channel with a little click on the bell so you get a notification of a new gadget report every week. My channel has been growing, you know that, I've been telling you. Thank you so much for that. But the whole algorithm thing, if you put a like, if you share my videos, if you comment, the algorithm sees all this movement in the channel, and they will present my content to more people, which in time will lead to my channel growing, having more subscribers, etc., etc. So please put a like and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell. You get a notification of a new of a new gadget report every week. This is what happens when you have two channels. A gadget report every week, and of course you then choose if you want to watch it or not. It's not something that just because you have a notification that you have to watch it. It's totally up to you. It just helps my channel grow. Before I go, I would like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.